much information for the year-end reviews to do this all in one setting. So we split it up into two, and today will be the final installment of that. Let me click some buttons here. You see that? Are you guys all seeing the presentation? All right. All right. Part two, year-end review starts at the beginning. We're going to start with maybe. All right. So, bottom right, we start with a little bit of comedy for a Tuesday morning. Laura and I found this picture last week. You know, you guys now, you all put bicycles on the front of your buses if you're a urban system. In the old days, looks like they put in strollers on the front of their bus. So we thought that was kind of funny. And that kind of ties in with safety. Um, Part of the year-end review process, we do send out the safety forms to our regionals and small urbans. This is the SS60 form that's required by NTD to be submitted during the process. We will send that out to you guys when we do our questionnaires, and then you will fill it out and submit back to the DOT. For those agencies with van pools, the monthly safety data will need to be incorporated into this form. And again, once we get your information and we start into the input phase of the NTD, we'll do those for you. This is again for the regionals and the small urban systems. The large urban systems, we will not request the SS40 or the 50 data forms from those agencies. The large urban systems will enter their own information into NTD as self-reporters. Things to remember for the SNS 60 form, for the safety form. NTD reporting requires detail on physical assaults on transit workers, non-physical assaults on transit workers, and other reportable safety and security data. The level of detail includes where the assaults occurred and the type of transit worker affected. This information, like I said earlier, will be collected from the regional and small urban public systems, and the bigger guys will get their own information submitted into NTD. Bottom right corner of this is we're going to have a couple of slides here with these little cutouts from the NTI database training. This is training that we took, and it's available for you guys too, but it kind of talks about the SNS 60 form and what that information is kind of the definitions of. In order for the year-end safety data collection to go more smoothly, we kind of ask you guys to track your stats throughout the year. That way you're not kind of end of the year kind of scrambling for this information. We also ask that you guys use the appropriate thresholds and report incidences only when they're necessary. The threshold descriptions will be included in the SNS 60 attachment that we send out with the questionnaire during the review process. So you guys remember from last year, we sent out the one-page table, and the following pages is about 6 more pages that has the definitions and assistance and guidelines on how to fill that form out. And again, to fill out correctly, don't over-report by totaling. And I kind of give you the example. I will give you the example here in the next 2 pages. Again, these are just cutouts from the NTI training, and these are the slides that will be included in the bottom of that form. The form itself looks like this. You can see kind of new for this year is we blacked out some of the bottom right corner and bottom corners. We've had a couple agencies last 2 years start totaling information. So it looked like their assaults were instances were a lot higher than they actually were. So we decided to black out the areas where that people were actually totaling, as that information shouldn't be there. Moving on, the DOT is still going to continue the practice of reviewing open contracts with the agencies as part of the year-end review process. We have also found this is a good time for the agencies to communicate any contract concerns with the DOT. Once a year, we look at all of our contracts to see where they're at in the process, and hopefully reminds that some of the agencies to get their contracts in order and used. We've kind of talked about this the last couple of years, but we're getting back to the operating contracts being only for 1 year, and capital contracts expiring after 2 years. With the vehicle contracts, we require you guys to order your vehicles within the first year of receiving the contract. This will give you time to get the vehicle ordered, get it into your shop and submitted for reimbursement before that contract expires after 2 years. We are also not going to be as free with the contract extensions anymore. We're only going to be granting this with DOT management approval on a case-by-case basis. All right, numbers review. We're talking about fuzzy math here. So we thought, we do some fuzzy math. We thought it was kind of funny again to get in the spirit here. But FTA for operations in Black Cat, that column must match the total amount that you received from reimbursements from the DOT. We do have a lot of issues with rounding when we do our reimbursements. And remember that FTA rounds down. And so sometimes we will do our reimbursements and we'll do that rounding for you. So when you do the year-end reviews, make sure that the stats match with what you guys are reimbursed. STA for operations total on Black Cat. And again, more fuzzy math because that is the actual amount, dollars and cents. So FTA money, we round down. STA money, we use exact dollar and cents. Again, your Black Cat totals on your end reviews from your quarter 1 through 4 should match the reimbursements that we look at in the process. If you do show in a Black Cat, if you claim FTA for operations, one of your lines in Black Cat, you must also show operating costs in that same line. We have seen instances where people were claiming FTA money for a service line that didn't have any operating costs. Really the only exception to this rule will be fellowships. You're not going to have any operating costs for a service under fellowships. Also with FTA for operations, the line cannot exceed the percentages listed in your DOT contract. For an example, with the 5311, that would be operating costs minus your passenger revenue like total, like normal, and then your federal percentage would be 50% for 5311 contracts. The FTA for operations on the right side of that service line cannot exceed that threshold. And it'd be different. Check your contracts. 5310 is a different percentage, right? So it depends on what your contract is. If you're using 5310 funds for contracted services, you can only request your FTA reimbursement and include that in your Black Cat for those lines with contracted services. We have seen instances where that 5310 funds is kind of spread out between all operational service lines, and that is incorrect. And that is only incorrect unless you have a separate federal funding source that you can put on those other service lines. So again, it depends on your funding source and where it's coming from. Fellowships. I mentioned fellowships earlier. These we do require you to report these in Black Cat as a separate line. Rural and small urban systems will report their fellowships under FTA for operations, and large urban systems will report these under STA for operations. Again, that kind of comes back to where the money comes from. And something to remember also, as we see in a lot of things in Black Cat at the end of the year review, is that that must be reported in the fiscal year that the conference or training occurred and not when you receive the reimbursement. So, end of the year, we kind of see some things where people aren't quite sure. They may have went to a conference in June, but they got paid in August. So there's that would be a June conference. So that's when you report that information. I'm going to throw Amy at this one. So if you have any questions, Amy runs that program for our office. So you can contact Amy if you have any questions on fellowships. And why the heck do I care about vehicle miles? And the simple answer is because it's all about the funding. The DOT uses Black Cat to ensure that the odometer readings match vehicle miles. We use these statistics to calculate the FTA and STA funding projections along with the annual PTMS list. So it's important to have correct data. Missing vehicles in Black Cat cause errors in the PTMS points calculations, and it also results in work need to be done by Black Cat itself. That can't be done by the DOT. A lot of times this will delay. The last few years, unfortunately, has delayed our vehicle calculations and ultimately delayed some of our timing of our projections. And everybody wants accurate funding calculations, so correct data is necessary. Since the implementation of Black Cat, we have noticed and have had to deal with discrepancies between odometer readings in the annual vehicle report compared to the vehicle miles in the year-end transit stats. Those two numbers should be close, if not accurate, exact numbers. We do look at those to make sure that the odometers, the vehicle miles, and your actual on your vehicles are within reason with the year-end stats that you're claiming on your with your quarterly stats. As a reminder, we've changed this year to record the date of when the report is due, but the actual recording of the odometers for each vehicle should be completed at the start of service on July 1st or after the end of service on June 30th. So that is the fiscal year. Very important here is readings must be actual mileages taken from the vehicle's odometer. Estimates, including those from dispatch software, should not be used in place of actual readings. We have seen instances where we've had a lot of issues with quite a number of buses the last couple of years based on estimates. We've had numerous issues, and again, we are not allowed to fix that. It has to go back to Black Hat. One thing that we're requiring, it might be advantageous for the agencies, is to include pictures of your year-end odometer readings in your vehicle files. When it comes to the actual vehicle report, please note that this is a snapshot of the agency's revenue vehicles entered into Black Hat at the time that you create that report. Vehicles cannot be added or removed from the report once it is created. To assist with the process, Laura and I will be deleting any annual vehicle reports that started before June 29th. That way we know that it's actual accurate information. Before starting your annual vehicle inventory report in Black Hat, double check to make sure all of your vehicles have been added to the inventory or disposed of. This will ensure that your fleets are up to date when the report is created. Again, that's because that report is a snapshot of the vehicles when you actually create that report. All revenue vehicles need to be in your Black Hat inventory. This includes van pool vehicles, taxi vehicles, and other leased vehicles. So make sure you work with your external entities to verify vehicle inventory. And I'll get back to that vehicle, the van pool vehicles here in a few slides. Some helpful reminders for the annual vehicle report. If you find that a vehicle is not included in your report, you'll have to delete the report, add the missing vehicle, and then recreate and re-enter all vehicles. So we've had a couple agencies where they forgot a vehicle or a couple of vehicles after they filled in their whole report. Unfortunately, like I said, it's a snapshot when you create the report. So basically you have to report or delete and then redo the whole thing. So we encourage you to, prior to starting the annual vehicle report, we encourage you to run the revenue vehicle report in Black Hat to make sure all your vehicles have been entered or disposed of. And you can find that in the report side of Black Hat. On the left side, there's a circle of the revenue vehicles there. There are some data fields in Black Hat that DOT is not able to fix. This is typically older reports. If you have odometer readings from last year or odometer readings once the report is finalized, we are not allowed as a DOT to fix those. We have to schedule a service ticket with Black Hat, and unfortunately that does cause delays in finalizing the reports. Incorrect fleet data in Black Hat also results in errors during NTD reporting. And a reminder for your annual vehicle reports that maintenance costs for small urban and rural systems should be included as part of your annual vehicle report. And as I mentioned earlier, at the bottom there, we did change the deadline for the annual vehicle report to July 15th. That basically was to allow the DOT a little bit more time to review some of these stats and try to get the odometers updated before there becomes a major problem with the stats. So what do you do if your odometer readings are incorrect after the report gets finalized? So first, before you even get that far, review your numbers to ensure that there are no typos. We've had some buses that have 1,000,000 miles on them during the year because there was another couple of digits added to the odometer. So please make sure there's no typos. And the same thing, we've had some negative numbers. So it kind of goes back both ways. And if you do have an odometer that needs to be changed, we are now requiring you to submit a photo of the current odometer reading for that vehicle with your request. The request needs to state why the odometer needs to be changed, what the accurate odometer reading is, and any corrective action taken to prevent future incorrect readings in the vehicle. As I mentioned earlier, Laura and I or anybody at the DOT cannot change the odometer readings in the annual vehicle report once the report has been approved. It has to go to Black Cat, requires software coding modifications, and it's not fun. It's kind of an ordeal. And again, we don't send these as an agency, single agency information. We have to compile everybody's incorrect data, the fixes, and send one ticket to Black Hat for all of our agencies. So it's not a as it goes, it's that whole data collection process. Over to van pools, third-party operated van pool guidance. Several of the agencies have signed enterprise van pool contracts. This has kind of caused a few wrinkles in our system, so we are still in the process of preparing a guidance document for the van pool. We're still trying to work out a few things to ensure consistency for quarterly stats reporting. A few reminders for the stats. Van pools must be reported as a separate mode of service in NTD. To add a new service mode, if you started a new van pool this year, work with your TPA, and we'll get that information submitted to NTD. During the year-end review process, you need to provide the DOT with your monthly safety data, Appendix D that you receive, and also the enterprise annual report so we can double-check numbers. Also be sure to double-check the quarterly transit stats reports against the enterprise annual report as you prepare your fourth quarter to make sure that their yearly report matches your guys' total quarterly reports. We've had, while we're still working on the guidance, because we still haven't figured out 100% how to deal with the fleet management of the van pool operated vehicles. The DOT would like to have all the van pools entered into Black Cat and also removed from Black Cat. We had a meeting yesterday with Enterprise, so we understand that the agencies are not getting this information. And so I left this area highlighted yellow because we are still in the process of finalizing how to get those vehicle informations into Black Hat and out of Black Hat and whatnot. The trigger here is we need to double check odometer readings versus the transit stats mileage. And so we're unable to do that if Enterprise isn't giving the vehicles to you guys. So yeah, it's highlighted, still up in the air, and we'll get back to you guys. Towards the end of the questionnaire for the year review process, we're going to ask some other questions typically. We're going to ask about charters or other incidental services. We'll ask about public school services, explaining your deficit, your operating deficit or surpluses, real property, incidental facility uses, locally funded buses, fleet contingency plans, and basically anything else that kind of looks out of the ordinary. We will review that and send you guys a list of questions with our emails. We've had a few emails lately about fuel tax reporting, and so we thought we'd throw in a slide here. Fuel tax reports are due 4 times a year. I have these listed here by the quarters, so the actual due dates are right there. We also have a new link for the FY26 fuel tax report, so that link is there at the bottom. And As a reminder, these are due by everybody. So even if you buy fuel and don't pay taxes on that fuel, you are still required to complete this fuel tax report. So everybody needs to be filling out these reports. Here's a list of some helpful Black Cat reports as you guys start working on with us on the year-end review process. These are a lot of the reports that we download through Black Cat. So the year-end quarterly transit stats reports. This is it compiles all 4 of your quarters. Or actually, it compiles the first quarter to your most current quarter in Black Cat for that fiscal year. So if you have all 4 quarters done, you can run this report, and it'll add up all the 4 quarters for you. The year-end mileage comparison report, vehicle mileage comparison report, annual vehicle report, and the revenue vehicle report, along with the year-end cost comparison. So these are typically the 6 or 7 reports that we run before we start doing our reports for you guys. Here's some other helpful resources. I won't go through them. They'll be listed when Amy makes this available. You guys can kind of download this and have this list for your information. And it's been about 20 minutes, and I'm done. So is there any questions today? Or you can contact your TPA after this. You can ask questions through us, or you can maybe ask them. We probably have a few minutes. We can take some questions if you need.
Yep, I do have a couple things that came up in the chat, Matt.
Okay.
One, Brock was being silly, and I love it. He wanted to know on that first slide, are the stroller passenger considered companion trips?
I would think so. Well,
I'm
it
pretty
depends on
sure
if they
Brock thought
pay a
that was a
separate
joke,
file.
but
Yeah. They'd have to pay a separate fare. They'd be reduced.
Yeah, and then there was another question that said, is that correct that maintenance expenses not required for large urban systems? It was from Mike Teedens. He thought he was told different in the past, but he wanted to clarify.
Yeah, large urbans do their own reporting for that through NTD. Yeah, I believe we at one point we had required that from the large urbans. We backed down from that because they already do that reporting through FTA. So we don't require that with our system.
Perfect. Mike says thank you. All right. Is there anyone else that has any other questions? We do have a few minutes left to the meeting. As Matt had pointed out, of course, if any questions come up, please reach out to your TPA, so Matt or Laura, if you have any questions. I will be combining the what you need to know, part 1 and part 2 PowerPoint slides. So I'll make those available to everyone. So you have the slides, so you have information. And then this recording will be available also on our website. I'm hoping later this week, if not early next week. So anyone that wanted to rewatch it or anyone that missed it can jump on and listen to what Matt and Laura had to say from the last 2 presentations. So I will take any other questions and we'll see if there are any.
Going once, going twice, done.
I got a quick one. Wait, you went too fast. You couldn't get away that easy.
Yeah, I tried.
I was just curious about the Laura had sent out that list of the vehicles that were being disposed from the Ohio transit system. Is that so do you guys know if there is any sort of I mean, my assumption is that that they basically, I think in the transit manager's handbook, it says like with situations like that, they have to get a couple different market value quotes. Is that kind of the case with those as far as pricing goes, or how do you know how they're determining that? Or
yeah, I don't know that. We got that list. Laura and I and a few of us are in a kind of a group chat with a lot of the agencies across the country. We got on that with the procurement training when we did that a couple years ago. So we just got that email and we thought we'd forward it on based on there being some available buses. Not sure how that quotes work. That would be on their end as far as making it with, because I'm sure some of those buses have federal
I would
useful
imagine,
life
yeah,
left
that's kind
over.
of what I was.
So they would have to make sure that'd be on their end and how they do that. We haven't researched that, but I will tell you that we got another email this morning and they got inundated by calls and
Did they?
communications. Yes. And so they have a waiting list. And so they're not taking any more calls.
Okay.
So they put together a first come, first serve. And it sounds
Yeah,
like if
that
you
makes
haven't
sense,
already
man.
contacted them, don't waste your time because
Yep.
they're not going to get back to you. So if you already contacted them, maybe on the list, I don't know yet. If you haven't, write it off. It's not going to happen. So unfortunately.
Better luck next time, huh?
Yeah. Yeah. We don't see that very often. That's the first
No,
email
I
we've
was gonna
seen
say,
where
man, it seemed, yeah.
agency was giving away all their vehicles. So that's kind of a unique situation, and we haven't seen that before. But yeah, good question. No answer for you, but I'm assuming it would be they would have to since the vehicles have federal useful life, they would have to abide by the FTA rules on that as they dispose of those vehicles, and most likely have to pay FTA back some money.
Sure.
So
It makes sense. Thanks, guys.
yeah, they might be able to transfer the interest to other agencies. That's a whole separate process to get that done that we haven't done here in Iowa. So there may be other processes in place, but yeah, we're not aware of that.
Okay.
All right. Any other questions? Hearing none, you guys have a great rest of your day. Like I said, Amy will have this presentation the next week or so on our website for you guys can download and review if you want. And we sure appreciate your time. And let us know if you have any other questions.
Thanks all.